among priests, among bishops, among our CCW, Knights of Columbus, volunteers, longtime parishioners, among politicians, journalists, commentators, among our own family members, brothers and sisters, whatever group it is, who's number one? How much time do we waste debating, wondering, worrying about who's number one? Who's the greatest? Who's the best? Who gets most recognition? How often we debate, wonder, worry, and fuss about this question. Who has the highest place? Don't miss the point. Here is Jesus, realize the most important person in the entire world, the divine Son of God, revealing to his disciples the most important details of God's saving plan to rescue all of humanity by his own death and resurrection. So on one hand, you have the most important person in the world, and he's unpacking the most important topic of all. And they don't pay attention. They totally miss the point, consumed in themselves. Instead, what's preoccupying their minds? Who's number one? They're more concerned about answering this petty matter. Who's the greatest among us? Who deserves most recognition? Who's the best? It's an amazing contrast, this scene. On one hand, Jesus discussing the most important thing there has ever been discussed. And these disciples, totally preoccupied, what really has no bearing at all. And yet, how patient is God? I would say this gospel should challenge each of us really to grow in patience in the company of others, who right now, to one degree or another, may be missing the big picture. And Jesus, rather than reacting with anger or emotion, he's profoundly patient in this scene. He waits. He allows this conversation to run its course. And then at the exact right time, in the exact right way, without drama, he continues to teach, plainly and simply. Once inside the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" He gives them an opportunity to confess. But they remain silent. And so then he gives them a demonstration, taking a child, one who in that time, in that place, had hardly any recognition, children. And so he takes a child, associating the child with his very self, the most important person in the world. He places it in their midst, and putting his arms around the child, he says to them, "If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all, the servant of all." Just think how much of our gossip, news cycle, conversations can revolve around that question, measuring where we and others stand, sort of measuring it out. Who's on the rise? Who's falling? Whatever happened to this person? Oh yeah, I remember they were a big deal, but look at them now. Jesus, by taking this child, placing it in their midst, is saying, guys, don't miss the point. Don't miss the point. The purpose of what we are doing, the purpose of life, it's not climbing the ladder. It's not recognition. It's not fame. It's not power or influence. But love, service, humility. Jesus teaches this again and again and again by his life, his words, and his actions. Perhaps most powerfully at the Last Supper, when Jesus will say and show us, by getting down and washing the feet of his disciples, I have given you a model. We are to live not for us to be recognized and served by everybody else, but instead to have the eyes to recognize the needs of others, to serve others, to see others as more important than our very selves.